helps. Yep.
All right, and right, so that is turned down. Hello, everybody who is a part of our Dumteedum on Zoom, and what a momentous, strange, moving uh, last 24 hours we've had. Um, a lot of people, there's a lot of messages today saying, "Is this actually still on?" Yes, it's still on. Um, and we have to keep us company in these epoch ending or starting times, we have Sonny Ormond, uh, the one and only man eater, all the way from Borsetshire. She decided to join us. Sonny, how are you today?
I'm all right. It's really lovely to be here, and hello, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I mean, the events have kind of overtaken us a bit, haven't they? You know, in the last few days with the sad departure of our dear Queen, and I think it's affected everybody, hasn't it? In all sorts of ways, probably even unexpected ways.
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I must admit that when I get the feels, as the children, as the kids call it, it's when I see the Queen with Paddington. That
I know
gets me.
it was lovely.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah.
Stop it, Paddington. Right. So that, and to think that she did that this year, as well. So she
Yeah.
she kept on going to the very end.
She was extraordinary, wasn't she? I mean, I think that's why it's in a way even more shocking because, 3 days ago she was inviting the next prime minister in, and then suddenly we hear the news that she's no longer with us. It's kind of, we all knew that she was getting on a bit, but I think that's been the big shock, hasn't it?
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Tuesday, shaking hands with Liz Truss, and Thursday, no longer with us. And it's interesting being of Jamaican heritage as well, and how the perception of the institution has actually shifted in somewhere like Jamaica, where up until 10 years ago they're actually quite monarchist. But now, not because of the Queen, but times have just changed, and they want to sever that link with Britain. But still, even though people want to do that, they still hold her in high regard as well. So it's really interesting how this one person has kind of transcended the institution, but very much was the institution at the same time. There's a kind of duopoly going on there.
Well, and it is, as you say, because, the Commonwealth and so on and so forth, and independence of countries and so on. But of course, you can't quite believe that she was around for so long. I mean, she's been through so many different changes, hasn't she, in the world?
Mm.
She's the constant, really. And it seems to me, when I don't know about what other people have thought, but when you listen to broadcasts, you listen to people who met her and so on and so forth, so that she just seemed to charm people. That there was something about her, heads of state, whatever, but they really warmed towards her. I think she just had this special gift. And when I look now at some of the interviews and things like that, or observed, because she didn't really interview, did she? But observed her talking to people. She was a good listener. You really get that effect, don't you? That she really listened to people. And of course, there's nothing stronger, makes you feel more important than if you've got somebody's full attention. And I think she was superb at that.
Yeah. Uh, It's true. And also, the other thing which has been quite marked when you listen to elder statesmen talk about her
Mm.
actually is how knowledgeable she actually was, but actually how she did use her soft power to gently cajole. One of the things which I was just talking about on another podcast was um, the Commonwealth in the 1960s.
Mm.
South Africa leaves the Commonwealth because it's about to be kicked out because of apartheid.
Mm.
And part of that signalling to South Africa, the Queen in 1961 goes to Ghana and dances with the black president of Ghana, Kwasi Nkrumah. And that is a very powerful symbol of how things have changed. And then when sanctions then get imposed on South Africa in the 60s, the 70s, and in the 80s, and remember, Margaret Thatcher didn't want those sanctions against South Africa, but actually the Queen did, and the Queen was at the Commonwealth, you know, badgering nations to keep it going and stuff. So that's the one area where she used her soft power in a very overt way. But you know what? We could talk about this all day long. But when we booked you in for the 19th of sorry, for the 9th of September, of course we didn't know what was going to happen on the 8th. So Sunny, we have to ask you about you. How
Oh,
are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. I'm absolutely good. And of course, this whole event with our dear Majesty has sort of thrown things up, with the Archers. I know at the minute because I've just, as I'm sure everybody did, I've just listened to the 7 o'clock episode now, and of course it said before the episode started that this was recorded before Her Majesty had died, and of course we're quite famous for our topical inserts, aren't we, on the Archers? But I know something will be coming up very soon. I think the problem was that, of course, it was announced quite late yesterday afternoon that the Queen died, and so it was quite a fast turnaround to get something done. For them, but something will be happening. I'm absolutely sure of that, to acknowledge it within the Archers. Yeah.
I was thinking today, well, what is it going to be? What's going to be that little line? Well, it can't just be a little line in the bull, can it? It has to be bigger. It isn't England getting to the World Cup final or whatever. You can say, oh, the boys did well, and then Kenton goes on and talks about something else. It has to be bigger, doesn't it? So it does make sense. The announcement came relatively late, and it can't just be a throwaway comment.
I suspect absolutely you're right, Wilfred. And I think they want to honour it in the right way. And of course, we're in the middle of this big storyline, aren't we, with Chelsea at the minute? And I'm not sure. I was sort of thinking about the app that went out tonight, and I thought it would have been really difficult, I think, to somehow drop in, because it's quite high energy. We've discovered that she's still alive, etc., etc. So I think it would have been quite a tricky one. But inevitably, certainly there will be something there, and it's basically to honor her. They'll find the right episode to do that, or the right scene to extract, to re-record, to include her death. Yeah.
So when there is like this a big storyline like there is at the moment with Chelsea, right? Now you can be honest, you with friends, right? Are you a little bit jealous, saying bloody hell, there's a corking storyline and I'm not at the centre of it?
No, well, it's really funny this, because just before we went on air, I texted our lovely Susie Riddell, who plays Tracy, and I just said to her, you are playing an absolute corker at the minute. It's really lovely what you're doing, and she is. She's just no. I of course. It's lovely to have your own storyline, but I've had so many lovely ones over the years, and I'm hoping, touch wood, touch wood, I might get a few more. But no, I think it's no, I don't at all. I just enjoy observing, my fellow actors having good storylines and playing them really well. And I was a bit taken aback because of the whole Ross situation. I didn't know that was going to, because we don't get all the scripts, so I had no idea that whole situation was going to explode with Ross and Lily. So I was really quite taken aback when I listened to that episode. So I wonder what's going to happen there, with those two.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've got you on here to provide us with some, you're our fifth column agent, and you've got no goodies to tell us. What are you here?
I can't give you any goodies. I absolutely can't. I'm sorry about that. No, it's. But what do people think about this lovely Tracy storyline and the Chelsea storyline? And I don't know what other people think. I think the two lads they brought in recently are just fabulous. Our new Brad and George. I think they're playing a bit of a blinder as well. Actually, they're really good, because it's, it's hard to come into something like The Archers, or any soap, I would imagine, whether it's a teleshow, and just sort of, you're parachuted in, and you're expected to kind of be very safe and secure and know who you are. And it's very difficult, when you're first given a new role, despite the fact that these characters have been talked about before. But the way that these two boys, Taylor and Angus, have just sort of parachuted in and just really feel like they're in a nice, comfortable armchair, and they're really, giving some great performances. I think it's thrilling. I do admire them so much. I think they're great. I don't know what other people feel about them, but particularly Brad at the minute, he's getting the opportunity to, to really show his colours, and I really believe that they're brother and sister. I really do believe they're brother and sister.
Yeah, absolutely. And the performance, the actor who plays Brad, he has to contain so much, and then hint at vulnerability and what. There's a lot of things going on there. It's I would have thought technically that's a harder performance to convey just through the voice than, let's say, playing George, who's cocky and bolshy and a bit of a wrong un type of thing. There's much more subtlety to that performance. Are you really are you really kind of like struck that there is not a passing of the baton, but they have got a whole load of younger
Mm-hmm.
actors recently?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I mean, it's the way it should be, isn't it? I mean, obviously, from an actor's point of view, you think, oh gosh, I wonder if I'm going to, I'm now coming into the really older area of the Archers. I wonder what storylines I will have, but that's life, isn't it? We need to have the younger generation coming forward. They are here and now, and the issues that affect the world affects them, and I think that's the way that it keeps the program alive, and it keeps it re-energized, is to have all this happening with these youngsters. So I mean,
But
we
does
are
it
a big cast. We're a big cast now. We are a big cast now.
you are I remember speaking to Kerry once, and he said to me, and this was a few years ago, and he said to me, do you know how many current characters there are in the Archers? And I said, I don't know, 40. He said 90 something or another. Technically, very obviously, half of that haven't been in it like for 50 years, but they still could be, is the point he was trying to make.
Yeah. Well, when I first
So
joined in 2000, I think that was when they were just beginning to extend the cast, because I think up until that point, there had been about 20 characters. Obviously, there were supplementary characters as well, but the main core were about 20. But then when I joined, and it was around that time, it really expanded. And certainly, it went quite quickly up to sort of 50, 60, 70. And so Kerry's, I'm sure, absolutely right. He will have the exact number now. So we are, a very big cast. But of course, it started out, as a much smaller cast, and really in those days, an actor who was in it could probably make a bit of a livelihood out of it. But you can't do that now, because there's too many of us. You've got to share stories, you've got to share episodes, and as we know, there were 6 episodes a week, and usually only about 5 or 6, 7 characters at the most in an episode. So it takes a while for a storyline to work its way out. Yeah.
can I just commend you for being able to inhabit my brain? Because in the 10 minutes that we've been chatting, you've given away 2 quiz answers. So if people were paying attention, you've got 2 quiz answers nailed on. Right, so Glyn, full of love. I hope you were taking notes, and you, Alison, as well. I'm watching the pair of you. So when you have this really large cast, and back in the 1950s, what a lot of the characters did, as did June, was they played more than one character as well, didn't they? So this is a much bigger cast, and then you have all these younger characters in, and then somebody can not be on mic for, I don't know, 6 months, right? There must be some level of, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, green room segregation, like like the old, the oldies kind of hang with the oldies, the new bunch which are all wet behind the ears kind of hang with them. How does that dynamic work?
We're all mucked in together. We're all meshed in together. And I mean, that's a joy of the Archers, really. I mean, at one day you would have had our lovely June 103, mixing with the likes of our new Brad and what have you. That's the joy of it, really. No, we all hang out together, and I think they keep us young. The young ones keep the old ones young, and that's one of the things I love about actors, actually. It doesn't matter what age you are, you're just kind of all one. You're not segregated in that way. We just all kind of get on together. And I think possibly with the younger actors as well who come in, you know, they're observing possibly the older actors who've been in the program a long time, their technique, the way they work, you know, they're learning from them. And equally, I suppose, you know, I never stopped learning as an actor. I mean, I've always said that. I you know, like with the younger actors, I suppose because I taught as well. I taught radio for quite a while. I'm always fascinated by young actors and technique and the way they approach things. So and talent. I mean, it's just adorable to see talent, and it just makes my heart sing. No, we are very much a bunch together, and the younger ones are just delightful. You know, I mean, if you're kind of sitting there and, you know, they say, "Oh, we'll go for a coffee. Do you want one?" You know, I mean, they're just lovely. I mean, it's a very nice bunch of people. Very nice bunch of people.
That's what you actors always say, though.
No, it's true though.
Until you write your memoirs, and then it all comes out.
Then it all comes out. The truth will out. Then, oh, I mean, I know I said I like such a. I hated their guts. No, I mean, I've been in companies and I've been in things where there are unpleasant people, but actually not in the Archers. I don't know why it is. It must attract. We're all different sorts of personalities, but I mean, it must attract basically nice people generally. And it's just there's nobody grand in it, you know, at all. It's a good place to be. I feel very blessed. I mean, I say this all the time. I'm so blessed to have the job. So lucky to have her as a character. You know, particularly as I'm getting older as well, and the fact that we don't have to learn our lines, Royfield, is a blissful thing when you get to 103 like me, not like June Spencer. But you know, it is. It's joyous that, you know, I feel blessed every day really that I'm you know, I'm part of the Archers. I really do.
But part of you feeling blessed, you've decided to go up in competition against Dumteedum, haven't you? You launched your own podcast.
Well, yes. Well, that's right, Royfield. Yes. Well, it really came about. It was my son, actually. You know, with our podcast, which is One Stiletto in the Grave. And because he said, "Mum, I don't think there are that many podcasts for older people. How about, you know, starting something?" And that's how it started, being inspired really by the character of Lillian that I play, because, you know, she's saying, "Okay, I'm getting older, but I'm still going to get most out of life, and I'm still going to enjoy myself," and so on. And so that's really the spirit behind it. We reminisce a lot about times gone by and so on and so forth. And we have guests, of course, on the show as well. We've had lovely Susie Riddell on, who talked in great depth about Tracy and all sorts of other things. And very soon we're going to be interviewing Felicity Finch. She's going to come on to chat about the Archers, but also about lots of other things, you know, that she does, because she's a documentary maker and all sorts of things like that. So I love doing the podcast, I have to say. I mean, so do tune in, though, because I think you'll enjoy it from the reminiscing point of view, because we take different topics as well. We talk about the Archers a bit as well, but we also take different topics like red telephone boxes and what it was like before mobile phones and how do we communicate. And, you know, it's quite fun. It starts us all off thinking, "Oh, yes, life has changed, hasn't it?" Mm.
It has indeed. Now, it's so lovely to see so many people on a Friday evening who are part of this Dumteedum Zoom. And we also have, there's like 20 people also watching on YouTube. So big ups to the YouTube posse. Well done. So all in all, there's about 50 of us here. And it's utterly lovely to see you all. Now, what we are going to do in time-honoured tradition of a Dumteedum Zoom, we are going to have the Dumteedum quiz, and then the last 20 minutes or so, I shut up, so he's saying, "Oh yeah, not before time," and you can ask a question. So if you've got a question for our Sonny, aka Man-Eater Pusscat, Sonny Ormonde, you know, hold your fire, but you will have your chance. You will have your chance. How does it work, Sonny, in terms of you're an actor, you've been on the show for 20 years, right? Is there actually like a contract renewal, or is it just a rolling thing? You know, how does that work?
just go from month to month. It's just rolling. Yeah, we're not on any contracts at all, and we only know really from month to month. We know a year ahead. Normally, it's been a little more tricky with the whole COVID situation, but we do usually know a year ahead exactly when the episodes are going to be recorded. But whether we're going to be in those episodes is another thing. But at least we can put those in our diary if we're trying to work around holidays or other work or anything like that. But no, we only know a month ahead, month before, if we're going to be used. We have an availability. It's called an availability check. It's usually around the same time that we start recording that month's work for the following month to see what our availability is on those particular days. And that's it. And then maybe sort of a couple of weeks later, we will be booked for those episodes if we're going to be used. It's been a bit more up and down and slightly more chaotic with the whole COVID thing, because we've been recording slightly differently. But generally, we do know roughly, when we're going to be recording. But it's usually about a month ahead that we will be booked. Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, got to ask you a question here, right? You've had, as I remember, Lillian's time since you returned back to the village, since you played Lillian. Lillian has had 3 lovers.
I know.
Am I missing one?
Three lovers. Well, she's had Tiger, she had Paul, and of course she's got her lovely Justin now. And then there was, and I can't remember his name. The one that she rode
yes
on the Harley Davidson. Isn't that awful? And I've forgotten his name. I'm going to have to.
I have too, and that's the reason why. Oh goodness, you were a really weird relationship with Tom's intended, who then went off, and I'm just blanking on. You're blanking on his name, and I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, here's the. Here's the point. Whilst you look that up, though, right? Here's the point of my question. Brenda, thank you, Brenda Tucker. You and Brenda Tucker were a bit.
Yes. Yeah. We weren't happy together, Brenda and I.
Yes. Thank you, Helen Grady, for sparing my blushes, because I was actually a big Brenda Tucker fan myself. Not that I wasn't a Lillian fan.
Yeah.
But so here's the question, right? Matt Crawford.
Oh yes.
Justin Elliott.
Yes.
Who was the best cuddler in bed, do you reckon?
Well, I must have to be discreet about those sorts of things, Roy. Phil, a girl cannot. I think that's best for the bedchamber, if you don't mind me saying.
Listen, well, I'm going to help you out. I reckon with Matt Crawford, you're going to get unadulterated passion.
Bit of rough.
That's your word you're using there. I'm saying unadulterated passion. Whereas I think with Justin, he's more of a refined cuddler, shall we say?
Yeah, possibly. He's more elegant. He's got an elegance about him, hasn't he? But then, of course, we also get Paul, who was Matt's brother, and I mean, he was the builder, wasn't he? He was a builder, and he was. I don't know about him really, but I always maintained. I can't remember if I said this before when I've been on the show, but I always had to justify when she started to have this affair with Paul the builder. I had to justify it because she did love Matt very much, but the way I justified it was the fact that I felt that Paul looked terribly like Matt, that they really looked like. But the great thing was Matt, she found really difficult to get close to emotionally. He was always out there. She could never quite reach him. Whereas with Paul, looked like Matt, and he was much more accessible. He was very loving. He was very warm. And that was how I justified the fact that she had the affair with him, because really that's what she wanted from Matt, but she couldn't always get from Matt because he was a bit of a rogue, a bit of a lad. Yeah.
It's interesting that this storyline, it was a big storyline, but it was important enough for you to go that extra mile in terms of Lillian's motivation. Because I'm taking it that the director didn't say this. You've just said this is how you kind of interpreted it. with literally every scene, is that what you have to do in terms of, what is the motivation of Lillian right here and now? Because there's been some bonkers silly storylines. That one where Linda was like chained up and whatever, right? You
Yeah.
can't tell me. You can't tell me that you seriously put yourself in the position of Lillian there, because that was just a bonkers storyline.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because over the years, you develop relationships with certain characters. I mean, that is the
Hmm.
joy of being in a program for as long as one is, and as has the, to be playing a character for 22 years, to be with that character is a real privilege, quite honestly, because you don't always get that as an actor. You're with a character maybe for 3 months, 6 months, even a couple of years if you're in the West End or something. But to have the time to really develop that character is very is a great privilege. So with stories, for instance, like with Carol, who plays Linda, I mean, they've got a real history, those two characters, and often they've been sparring with each other, and and so on and so on. There was a big change that came for both of them after the fire at Grey Gables, and the terrible time that Linda went through, and Lillian and Linda became really great friends, and Lillian was very comforting to her, and they broke a barrier then, and Carol and I have said since then, even if we begin to spar or we fall out with each other, that relationship is so bonded now. It's a very different relationship. So going back to what you're saying, for instance, about the ball and chaining of the ball, I think it for me, it worked because it's about the sparring. I think this was before, obviously, the bull in. I'm sorry, the hotel fire. That actually they were
Hmm.
constantly sparring with each other, and I think there's an element of Lillian. She's a real tinker. She kind of enjoys creating problems. She enjoys situations where she can be a bit like a naughty schoolgirl, and I think she sort of is getting one up on on Linda. So I could reconcile that. I mean, and sometimes what you have to do, you have to play the episodes that you get. You have to play the scenes that you get. Sometimes, I get scenes, we all would get scenes and think, is that quite Lillian? I'm not quite sure. But you know that in a way, you're probably what we say is wallpaper for another character. So you're there as background, maybe you're facilitating another character. So sometimes you just have to go down that route. But I can usually justify it. I mean, I can usually find a way to justify. And I think you find different ways through the years of doing it. Inevitably, there are times you think, I don't think she would say that, but you find a way of doing it. You find a way of doing it. And I suppose it's manipulating the scripts in a way, manipulating the lines to a certain extent. And if something feels really wrong, and that could happen maybe if you've got a new writer on board, inevitably they've got to get their heads around a lot of characters. They're not as familiar with many of the characters. Then, you might say to a producer, I'm not quite sure about that line. Could we just change it a bit? And sometimes all you have to do is change it, and it's fine, and it's your rhythm, and it feels righter for that particular character. But that you do have to adapt a little bit when you're playing a character for so long. And as I say, some scenes you're wallpaper as opposed to being the focus of it. You're facilitating other people.
It's interesting that you talked about your relationship with Linda Carol Boyd.
Mm.
And you talked about the sparring nature. You're both, grandmothers to the same grandchild. Do you is do you kind of does it help if you get on with the other person who you're acting against, or are you just actors? So you can all deliver that performance. Does it help that maybe you are muckers, and you have this history of not just acting together, but maybe just sharing a glass of wine? Does that kind of help, do you think?
I did see it's a tricky one, really. I mean, I think as actors, I don't think it matters necessarily, because you are a character. You take a script and you play that character with that against the other character. You play the script, you play the lines. I suppose from the point of view, if you've been working with somebody for a long time, for instance, Carol and I, we've done lots and lots of scenes together. I'm completely relaxed with Carol. I kind of I know Carol's Withams as Linda, so that's quite nice, because it means you completely relax and you can play around with the scenes. I'm completely relaxed with her, and we can probably have fun with it. But I don't think generally it matters. I mean, I think, as actors, you just get on and do it. I mean, many times, you hear, don't you, in biographies, autobiographies, somebody's played a lover with somebody and hated their guts, but actually, I mean, Marilyn Monroe, and I think, and Laurence Olivier, was it The Prince and the Showgirl? Apparently, they really, he couldn't bear her, but you'd never know that, really, would you? So I think it happens again and again and again. It's the actor's sort of way of, you get around it. I don't think it really matters particularly.
Perfect place for us to pause, good people. And you will all know, if you've been on a Dumteedum Zoom before, that we have a quiz. And the first three are the picture round. So, Sunny, please get out your pencil and paper.
Right.
Join in.
I will.
Now, the only thing you win on this quiz is satisfaction. You'll be able to gloat. There are no gongs. There are no prizes here from Dumteedum Towers. But we will crown somebody as the Dumteedum quiz winner today. Now, first three questions are the picture round. This is a character in The Archers. Who is this character? All right, so we have a footballer, we have some kind of utensil, and then we have something with some fangs on it. And I have to give these audio prompts because there are some listeners who are without sight who listen to the podcast. So we have a footballer, we have a utensil of sorts, and then a kind of a hand with some claws on it. So that is character number 1. Now, this one's a little bit fiendish, I'll freely admit. Right, so there are 2 objects here in question number 2. It's a badge, and it says "Free the Birmingham Six." I'll tell you what the badge actually says. And then we have something which you will find generally in the kitchen. So there's a badge about which commemorates the wrongful conviction of 6 Irishmen in my hometown of Birmingham. They were fitted up for the pub bombings in Birmingham, but they didn't do it. So that's what this badge recommends. And then we have a utensil that you would find in the kitchen. Here's a clue. This character has not been in The Archers for a little while. So I'll give you a little bit of a clue there. Question number 3. I think this one's a bit easy. We have our dearly departed monarch. Then we have somebody with a club and he's swinging it. And then we have something which you'll find up in the air. What character is that? I can see Rob Williams. Oh, Glenn Fuller has just nodded. He's gone, oh yeah, I've got that. Yeah. Sorted that. Rob Williams is also looking rather confident. Yeah. Well done, Rob. All right. So now we come on to our Sunny questions. All right. Now, if you were paying attention, good people, Sunny actually gave us this answer. So, right, here we go. What year did Sunny begin playing Lillian? The character of Lillian Bellamy is older than Sunny's time playing her. But you have 3 choices. Is it A, 1999? Did she party like it was 1999 when she came in? Which would have been very apt. Was it B, 2010, or C, the year 2000? What year did Sunny begin playing Lillian? 1999, 2010, or the year 2000? And you've had the answer given to you if you're paying attention. Question number 2. Since returning to Ambridge, Lillian has had an affair. Who was the lucky man? You've also been given this answer today. Is it A, Mungo, B, Mitch, or C, Paul? Since returning to Ambridge, Lillian has had an affair. Who was the lucky gentleman? Was it A. Mungo, B. Mitch, or C. Paul? Question number 3. What did Lillian take from Mike Tucker? A. Dance lessons, B. his virginity, or C. his eye? See you laughing there, Alison. Thank you. Thank you for appreciating my work. Let's go through that again. What did Lillian take from Mike Tucker? Was it A. dance lessons, B. his virginity, or C. his eye? Question number 4. Lillian lives where in the village? A. Woodbine Cottage, B. Honeysuckle Cottage, or C. the Dower House? Where does Lillian live in the village? Woodbine Cottage, Honeysuckle Cottage, or the Dower House? And then the last question is, which actor's portrayal of the Queen does Sonny think was the best? A. Claire Foy in The Crown, B. Helen Mirren, or C. Olivia Colman's portrayal of the Queen, which is also in The Crown on Netflix. I'm going to say that again. Which actor's portrayal of the Queen does Sonny think was the best? Was it Claire Foy playing a very young Queen? Was it B. Helen Mirren, or C. Olivia Colman's portrayal of Her Madge? There you go. There are your quiz questions, and we'll give you the answer to those at the end of the recording. Oof. So, Sonny, when are you back in? When are you back into the mailbox? Do you know?
I'm actually back in next week. Yeah, we're recording. We start recording again as of Sunday for the next lot. So yes, I'm in next week. Yes, I'm in, but I'm hooked at the minute as to what's going to happen with Chelsea. Absolutely, I mean, I really am hooked to see how all that's going to pan out.
But you've got Tracy's Susie Riddell's number. Sorry, you can just ask her. Just say, "How's this pan out?"
No, listen, I can't. Oh, sorry about that. I cannot do that because the thing is, although I'm in it, although I'm in the Archers, I'm also a listener like everybody else, and I switch heads, I switch hats when I'm listening. And as I say, because years ago we used to have all the scripts for all the episodes, but I mean, talk about wasting trees doing that. So now, then we used to have synopses of everything, but we don't really have that now. So it's a matter of asking questions and whatever your storyline is. But in a way, I find that quite exciting because I don't know often what other people are necessarily up to. So you get sort of rumors about things, but you don't know. And so I just like the not knowing. I would know. I'm not going to ring Susie to find out what's happening. Or indeed, lovely Maddie who plays Chelsea. No, I'm just like everybody else. I want to be surprised and go ooh when I listen to it on the radio. I think, oh my goodness gracious, that's exciting.
All right, and before we throw this out to the Dumteedummers who are watching and listening, who do you think's the daddy?
You want me? Well, I don't know. I mean, I could be anybody, couldn't it? Quite frankly, could be somebody that's already.
Well, let's say Jim Lloyd. I don't think it's Jim.
Yeah, no, I've no idea. I've no idea. Who do you think it might be?
I've got a sneaky feeling they might be throwing us a little bit of a red herring with this, right? So we are led to believe that that conception probably took place at this festival. That's what we kind of led to believe, right? So there's Ben Archer, Josh Archer. Obviously, there was the terrible Russ, but also there was Saul, wasn't there? Lily's person who she had the one night with, he was there. It wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being Saul, this character Saul, who we've heard 2 or 3 times, and then that's it. You know, so
Mm.
it's not Russ because that's so nailed on obvious that it can't be.
Mm.
And he gave the police his phone, and you know there was nothing on there. So Russ is in the clear. I think it's Saul. I think the smart move is on Saul, which in a way is actually unsatisfying for us as the listeners because wouldn't it be great if it was Josh, you know, type of thing.
You know, yeah. We shall have to wait and see, won't we? We shall have to wait
Mm.
and see. We are in
We will.
suspense.
We will indeed. Now, good Dumpty-Dummers, now is the time for you to rally to the cause and unmute yourself and fire a question because we've got an esteemed guest. But whilst you're summoning up the courage, and I can see your hand there, Rob Williams. Well done, sir. There's a little kind of hand raising option. Try and use that because then it saves me looking backwards and forwards and then forgetting where you are because there are 30 plus of us actually on this call. Thank you, Sue Lee. I can see you there. You're there waiting. And then whilst I remember, if you haven't done so already, nip over onto YouTube after this recording. Subscribe to my channel, which actually has, I think there's about 25 of these interviews now with actors from the Archers who've basically come on. Sonny is actually, you know, Sonny, this is your third time. You are out in the lead in terms of the amount of times we've had you back. You're like a BBC repeat.
I know. Oh, isn't that sad? Well, I'm always thrilled to come on. I'm always thrilled to come on. So, you know, it's delightful.
Listen, you're a great friend of the podcast. Right, so first off, we're going to do Rob, then we're going to do Sue Lee. Rob Williams, give us your question, sir.
Right, hi there. Hi, Sonny. Thanks for
Hi, Rob. Hi, Rob.
spending your time. Right, okay. Royfield sort of brushed around the edges of this. Lillian's sitting at home one night. There's a knock on the door. She goes up. Hello, Pussycat. Matt's back. What does she do? Stay with Justin, go with Matt, or is it some sort of juggling act?
Oh dear. Or hello, Pussycat. You can hear it now, can't you? You can hear that voice. I know, it's very fun. Well, oh gosh, you know, I don't know. I have thought about this, you know, from time to time. And of course he did come back, didn't he? When she was with Justin and there was all that sort of to do. I mean, I think I just don't know. I think the thing is with Lillian, she's always going to be attracted to Tiger because he was somebody that she just really couldn't nail. He was always slightly out of her reach. And so I think he's always there for, you know, a huge attraction. And of course, Justin and Tiger are so different, aren't they, as personalities? So different. I don't know. I think it would be a fascinating story. I suspect, although I wouldn't be writing the scripts, but in my own instinct would be that she would probably have a dalliance with Tiger because she couldn't resist it. What the outcome would be of that, I really don't know. But I think definitely, as far as Lillian's concerned, it is not the end with Matt. I would say. Does that help?
Oh, that's. Oh,
I mean,
do the laugh, please. Do Lillian's laugh.
Oh, hello. There you go. Well, what do you think, Rob? What do you think?
I think it's like you say. I think she's seems very happy with Justin, but then Matt walks back in through the door, and it's all the what slipped through my fingers. You know, is there anything there? It's the bad boy back on the scene?
Absolutely.
So I think she'd be torn.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, and certainly that's I absolutely do.
But it'd be fascinating to listen out to.
Yeah, I know. Well, you never know. It might happen, mightn't it, at some point? Yeah. I mean, I think they were very interesting as a couple, weren't they? I was used to Ian and Matt, and I think it's an interesting little story, you know, about that because in the early days when I'd first joined the program, which was in 2000 and sorry about that, guys. But yeah, and Kim, who played Matt, was in and out of the program. I mean, he wasn't really established. And I remember there was a scene, and of course my character wasn't really established then either, or the new Lillian wasn't established. And I remember there was a scene where Lillian and Matt were invited to Jenny and Brian's for supper. And, you know, it was from that scene that I think Vanessa Whitburn decided, these two would be a really interesting couple. And I think it must have been just something about the way we communicated with each other, the voices. And she must have thought, I can see where this is going. And I think it definitely was from that suddenly she got the idea that, you know, she was going to make them a couple in some way. Interesting though, isn't it? You know,
Lovely.
and they did vocally. I think they worked really well together. Yeah.
True. Well, thank you.
Thank you for an awesome question, Rob. Sue Lee, who was our Suey, whose birthday was just last week.
It was.
How are you?
I'm good, except for a hole in my thumb mandolining apples. But these things happen.
Ow.
Yeah,
Ow.
It's quite sore.
I bet. Ow.
Sunny, thank you so much for coming on. It's always lovely to hear you. I've got a question about what is clearly the most important part of the year coming up, which is the Flower and Produce Show.
Yeah.
And so what would you, Sunny, or you as Lillian, which categories do you feel really strongly that you'd want to win in?
Well, I don't know. The thing is, and happy birthday, by the way, for last week. Well, I'm not, you see, the thing is about Lillian, she's not very domestic, I don't think. Do you, really?
Not so much.
Not so much is the thing. I think she's got a bit more domestic since the arrival of Justin in a way. But I don't think she's the greatest cook. A bit like Ruth. Ruth's got a bit of a reputation for not being a fantastic cook, hasn't she? But let's think. Flowers, probably. I mean, I think she loves roses. She does love roses. Whether she herself would tend the roses, Sue, I'm not sure. She probably has a gardener who does that.
Yes,
really.
very much so.
I'm not sure that she would get down to do much of that, really. And I can't see her really growing up parsnips and a carrots and an allotment somehow. I think she'd find that a bit of hard work. But I think the flowers, and I think it will be roses. I think.
And what about you, Sunny? What would you want to win?
Oh, very good. Well, do you know, I'm a bit the same, really. I do love my garden, and I sometimes, I don't know, you know, about everybody who's listening, but I don't always have the time to do as much as I would like to, because they are a continuous job, aren't they? And I mean, I don't know about everybody's gardens, but with all that sun and everything, I mean, so much of my grass was kind of just, you know, brown mass. It's all right now. It's green again. We've had a lot of rain, thankfully. Here, I know a lot of parts of the country still haven't, but actually, funny enough, I think I'll share the roses probably. I do love clematis. I love clematis, and I love magnolia trees, particularly the ones, you know, they've got those deep pink.
Beautiful things.
But no, I do love gardening, and I find, you know, being in gardens, National Trust gardens as well, just so relaxing. I just love that nature, being with trees and things like that. I mean, Judi Dench is a great tree lady, isn't she? She loves trees and so on. But
much solace in a good tree.
Much solace. But I'm a country girl, you see, because I was brought up on a farm. I'm a farmer's daughter, so I'm just used to. I love fields, I love open air and anything like that. But I mean, despite Lillian being, you know, brought up in the country, I don't think she's quite as hands-on myself with the gardening or with the with the carrots and her parsnips and her turnips, and I think she'd like to be, but I'm not sure she'd be very good at it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for that wonderful question, Suey. Glyn Full of Love, you're up next, sir. You need to unmute, Glyn.
Yep. I think I've done it now. I think the answer we were all hoping for on that last question, Lillian, was Lillian. Sunny. Sunny Lillian was right. I've destroyed my timing. But we were all hoping you were going to say gentleman's buttonhole.
Oh, what? Oh, were you?
There we go. So I think thank you very much for coming on this. I think the actors who come on here are a little bit like the government minister who shoved onto the Today programme to answer questions about absolutely anything, even if it's not in their brief. So in that spirit, do you think the Archers has sort of caught up with COVID? Because it's Ambridge was almost a COVID-free zone, And so many things have changed in the way people work and the way people use technology. And do you think the Archers has actually caught up with that yet, or is it still a little bit sort of pre-COVID-y?
It's a good question, isn't it? It's so tricky, isn't it, to do. By the way, I love your surname, Full of Love. Are you full of love? That's what I want to know. It's a wonderful name. You'd have to
ask Royfield.
Say Royfield, is he full of love? That's such an unusual name, though. I mean, do you know the origin? Before I answer your question,
yes,
the origin of it. Tell me just quickly what the origin is.
You'll find it in divorce cases, in the sort of when they started translating divorce cases into English. Yeah. That was the nickname of the person, normally the sort of third person involved.
Oh, really? And that's what.
Yes.
Really fascinating. Anyway,
so I had a very randy ancestor.
Clearly you did. I mean, clearly you did. Oh, marvelous! It's a wonderful name. Anyway, thank you for that. So yeah, in answer to your question, it's tricky because I do remember when when we first went into lockdown, as you probably remember, we were all taken off air, and everybody was taken off air, weren't we? And even before that was happening, I remember that our editor, Jeremy, was in the green room. We were doing a read-through, or about to do a read-through. And this whole thing came up for discussion as to, do we mention on the Archers about COVID or not? The problem was that every day things were changing. And I think it was very difficult. It was a bit like when we had the foot and mouth problem many years ago now, but every day there would be some new development, and it was really hard keeping up with all that for the production team, doing the topical inserts as days went on. And I think that was the problem really with COVID. The decision was either to really go with it or to keep the Archers. Sorry, I need to get rid of that. As a sorry, can I just take this to set welcome to go? Hello.
So whilst we are waiting for Sunny to come back, let me just mute her. Talk about a live broadcast, eh? Crumbs. Anything could happen when Dumteedum does Zoom. You could take a call from your agent. You never know, So, can I just gently admonish a couple of people here? I'm saying just gently. We've got to keep the quiz answers to ourselves. That's all I'm going to say. It's no fun if you don't keep them to yourselves. So that's all I'm going to say. Sonny, unmute yourself.
Sorry about that, guys.
It was a Hollywood agent. It's fine.
Enough. It's not that. It's about a blinking recording I may be doing tomorrow, and that's why I kept it on. But I told them to bring me back, so I do apologise. So yeah, so I think the business with the COVID is a tricky one, actually. I mean, it is. I don't know if it is really even still mentioned. I suppose in real life now. I mean, I don't know about you. I find it's not really something. We're going about our business in much the same way as we were pre-COVID. I think it's difficult to sort of. If you're going to mention it, then I think it becomes a bit all-consuming. I mean, I don't know what you think. I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to it. What do you think, Glenn? I mean, do you think we should be acknowledging it much more or not?
I just don't think they quite sort of have recognised, lots more people working from home, and lots of people sort of took a chance to sort of change the direction of their lives, and it seems to have completely passed it by. So I don't think it sort of has to be mentioned in terms of COVID, but sort of some of the impacts of COVID should probably be written into the storylines in a not in a massive way, and it doesn't have to be obvious, but I think in just a little bit of a subtle way.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's fair enough, really. I suppose one of the issues is there are so many ingredients within the program to get out that, I mean, it's fair enough. It's absolutely valid what you're saying, but I suspect that's what it is. There are so many ingredients that they're trying to get out within the program but you never know. It may be something that is going to be looked at in some way. And I mean, I do take your point about that, but Yeah, it's an interesting point, and it may be something that they are going to develop in one character or some character's life, at some point. Yeah, but interesting. Yeah.
Thank you, Glyn. Right, Lillian McCarthy, and then we've got Pippa's iPhone. You're going to be the last two to speak. So first, Lillian McCarthy. How are you, Lillian?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you. Are you?
Ah, most excellent, most excellent.
Jolly good. I was glad to be able to join you after all, because I know originally that I'd said I couldn't because I was a choir practice, but choir practice was cancelled due to out of respect for the Queen. Sunny, hi, and thank you so much for coming on, as everybody has said. We all know that you play Lillian in The Archers. Mm-hmm. But I read somewhere this week that you had appeared once before as another character. So can you tell us a bit about Zoe?
Well, Zoe, yeah, Zoe was the New Age traveller. And I mean, it's a long, long time ago, and I was in for not many episodes, but she appeared because she had befriended Kate at some festival, some music festival, and she came into the Archers sort of causing havoc, and I think she was trying to influence Kate in a negative way. One of the things that I remember very much about it was it seemed to answer everything she said, spoke to everybody. She always said, yeah, at the end, yeah. And I remember thinking, how do I make this work? It's a bit like the laugh. You want to throw it away, really. You don't want to dwell on it because it's obviously part of the personality. But I do remember that. But yeah, and I also played, actually, there was a probation officer called Mrs. White, and actually she was responsible for her evidence putting actually Susan Carter into prison. Do you remember all that? Do you remember when Susan went to prison?
Oh yeah, I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, I remember scenes with Charlotte, who obviously was Susan, and it was her evidence. I can't quite remember now the ins and outs of it, Lillian, but yeah, she was responsible for that. So I played two characters. I've played two characters.
Yeah, I read about this in the week, and it quite interested me because I don't think I was quite listening regularly when Zoe was in it, so I didn't remember. But one of the things that I read was that wasn't she trying to embezzle money out of Brian and Jennifer?
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that was a whole sort of thing of, she befriended Kate, and that was, and then she was sent packing. Then she was sent.
Because
that's right.
No, it's interesting that when people, no, it's interesting that because as I say, I wasn't listening regularly when Zoe was in it, but I'd read about it in the week, so it interested me. So thank you for answering that.
Yes, and thank you for doing a deep dive on our Sunny there, Lillian. And
very good. My name
now. Griselda, you've sneaked in, but I'm going to allow it, as my kids say. I'm going to allow that, right? So don't worry. Philippa's iPhone, you're up next.
Hello, yes, that's me. Hello.
Hi,
Son.
Hi.
Hello, Sunny. I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. I've really been looking forward to this. A while ago, you came and stayed in my house.
Oh my goodness. Oh, tell me.
Because I mean, I can't remember how many years ago it was. You and the wonderful John Telfer were doing an evening of Philip Larkin at Stamford.
Yes.
You remember?
I do indeed remember.
And my great friend Karen said, can you put them up? And I said, yes, 100%. And John didn't, because he was going on to Bristol to do the same thing. But you guys came back, and it was the funnest evening. And it was it was a pleasure then, and it's a pleasure now.
I remember it so well. I remember it, and you were so hospitable, absolutely, in your lovely home. Yeah, I remember it very, very well. So thank you very much for doing
that. You're welcome. You're always welcome.
Again. How lovely to see you again. Yes, we did the Larkin show Oh, well, a lot. And I mean, we would still be doing it, but of course, COVID put the tin lid on a lot of, shows and things like that. But yes. Oh, how lovely.
Oh.
Lovely to see you again. And your
And you.
beautiful home. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank
Are
you.
you still there? Are you
Really
still
good
there?
evening.
Are you still there? Are you still in the same house?
No, for various reasons, which would take far too long to go into now. But anyway, it was a lovely, lovely evening, and it's an absolute pleasure to meet you again.
Oh, bless your heart. Well,
Thank you.
love to see you again. Love to see
Well, that was an unexpected, well, it wasn't really a question, statement, but well done, Philippa's iPhone. Right, Griselda, you have the honor of bringing up the rear, so to speak. Go for it. You need to unmute though, Griselda. Unmute. There's a little there you go. You've done it.
There you go. Hello, hi.
Oh, now it's connecting your audio. Crumbs. Again, this is the excitement, or dare I say it, one of the downsides of doing things live. It's connecting your audio. So I'll just keep gabbling until it connects your audio, and say, if you haven't done so already, after this, remember, you got to go onto YouTube, subscribe to. Now it's connected you, hasn't it, Griselda? Say something, Griselda. just talk. It says you're connected. We can't hear you.
Hello.
There you go.
Hi,
No, that was. Oh no! All right, we have a technical issue with you, Griselda. I'm unmute one more time. No, you're muted. You're talking whilst you're muted.
Yeah, I got it.
There you go. There you go.
Sorry,
Right.
I've been
There you go.
really stupid. I usually do it on a PC, and I'm not good on my iPad. It was just a really quick point. The question about the COVID is really an interesting one. But I live in a village that might as well be called Ambridge, because just about everything that happens in Ambridge happens in our village, and just about everything that happens to somebody in Ambridge has happened to me or one of my friends. So it's really true. I just can't, there's so few people in Ambridge, and indeed in my village, who could work from home, because we all work in shops or bars or piggeries, or a lot of us have or stables. We've all got horses, or we're farmers. So I don't think COVID is as relevant to Ambridge in the same sort of way as it's not really relevant in our village. I mean, of course, a few people have had it, and we all know somebody who might have died, but that's about the closest we've got to COVID, where I live. And I think Ambridge is very similar.
I think it's interesting, Griselda, because as I was talking to Glyn there, I was racking my brains, Glyn, as well, to sort of think of the various families that there were and the occupations and so on. And I was actually thinking really more about what you're saying, Griselda, that actually a lot of it's very very hands-on, isn't it? It's either farming community, which is a doing community, or thinking about Lillian with the stables. You know, it's all very kind of hands-on, and even with the property development, it's still going out into the community. It's interesting, that really. I think it's sort of probably more people, I may be wrong, but people in towns and cities who maybe work in offices and things like that, and maybe it affects more in terms of, the COVID has changed that so that they can work more from home. I don't know what other people think, but I think, I was trying to think, who it might affect in that respect in Ambridge, and maybe somebody else can enlighten me, but I couldn't think quite who it might affect.
I tell you what I've found, Griselda, because I'm looking at the time here, so I'm going to jump in. I'm host privilege, right? I'm jumping in, but I've got a question to put to you, Griselda. You said, right, that everything which has happened in the Archers has happened to either somebody in your village or to you personally. So the question is, what character in the Archers actually are you?
Probably Lillian, but my husband's dead.
Gotcha. You like a gin? Do you like a gin?
So probably Lillian a few years ago.
Interesting. Right.
But
now,
I would have Matt. But I'd have had Matt. If Matt came back, I'd have had Matt.
Right, in the interest of time, right, because I said to Sunny, we when we booked her, and our people spoke to her people and whatever, they were very strict, 1 hour. And we had another 3 minutes extra. So with that in mind, let's go back to the quiz. And then, dare I say it, we can all get back to watching the coverage of the passing of the Queen on our TVs. So bear with me whilst I just click a few buttons. And here we go. And now I go to share. And I go, right, question number 1. We have a footballer, a utensil of some sorts, and a scary hand. The footballer is Didier Drogba. The utensil is Dusty Bin, if you remember your 80s and early 90s terrible TV, and the hand is pretty scary. So Didier Drogba played for Chelsea. The bin is Dusty Bin, and the scary hand represents horror. I think that was a pretty easy, that one. Chelsea horror bin was the answer to question number 1. Question number 2. This one's a little bit more fiendish. If you are a listener of a certain vintage, you will know this character who never actually spoke. The badge says free the Birmingham 6. And then the pan is a frying pan. It's free the fry. Free the fry. Frying pan.
Good.
Question number 3. We have our Madge in the 50s looking all lovely. We have a golfer, and then we have an aeroplane of sorts. So it's Elizabeth, and I couldn't think of an image for for golf, but that's a golfer, and then it's a jet, Elizabeth Pargeter. But I think we all kind of got that. I think Madge and a jet, I think we all got that. Right, on to the Sunny questions. What year did Sunny begin playing Lillian? What year was it, Sunny?
It was 2000.
It was. And you went, so when I started playing in 2000 and...
I know.
All right. Question number 2 of the Sunny section. Since returning to Ambridge, Lillian has had an affair. Who was the lucky chap? And you even mentioned him when you were talking before. And the answer is...
It is that handsome builder, Paul.
It was handsome Paul. The third Sunny question. What did Lillian take from Mike Tucker? And the answer is...
I don't think it was his virginity, and it certainly wasn't his eye, so I think it must have been dance lessons.
It was dance lessons. Can you remember why?
I can't. Isn't that awful? I do remember waltzing around the studio with him.
Matt Crawford's previous partner to you was a great dancer.
Oh, yes, that's right. That's right.
So Mike gave you dancing lessons.
Yes, I'd forgotten that. But I do remember waltzing around the studio with him, and we had good fun, because it's always difficult when you do dancing, because, you're trying to keep your face towards the microphone, but you're still moving around. So I do remember that. Anyway, yes.
Question number 4. Lillian lives where in the village? If you don't know this, they should sack you on the spot. Where do you live?
Well, I live in the Dower House.
You most definitely do. And the last Lillian /Sunny question is, this is fiendish.
It is fiendish.
Right? Nobody could be putting this in the chat with any level of certainty. Slap on the wrist for the people that put answers in the chat. Which actor's portrayal of the Queen does Sunny think was the best? Claire Foy, Helen Mirren, Olivia Colman. All treasures.
I know all 3.
No, you can't say that. No. You've got to nail your colours to the mast.
This is a trick question, Royfield.
It's not a trick question. It's totally a question.
Have I said it ever in an interview?
No.
Oh.
No, you haven't.
You're just throwing this at me. You're just throwing
this at you. Queen passed away yesterday.
All right, then.
10 days worth of mourning. I thought.
Well, I think they're all brilliant, but the one that I did enjoy the performance of was Claire Foy very much in The Crown. I just thought she was really clever with that. But the others are great, but I did enjoy that performance from her.
I'm inclined to agree with you, because also she's playing the Queen in a time which we don't really remember. We don't have the TV footage, so there's going to be a lot more in kind of interpretation as opposed to like a strict kind of mimicking and whatever. So I think Claire Foy, and also blooming hell, didn't she did she look like her as well? You know,
Very.
it was
And
just it was brilliant.
That's right. And she just caught her physicality, I thought, really well, Claire. You know, it was really rather regal and kind of elegant. Yes. Anyway, Claire Foy.
Yes. Right, everybody. Now there were, and I'll go to gallery view. There were 8 questions there. Anybody get all 8? Raise your hand. Just wave if you got all 8. All right. Okay. When I was going to the other gallery page, make sure I'm not missing anybody. Right. Nobody's got all 8. Okay. Fantastic. How about 7? Wave your hands if you got 7. All right. Nick Roworth, my bête noire, you old scoundrel. Hello, Nick. Nick, Glyn, Rob. Who else got 7? Was that you, Helen, or was that Babita? Was it anybody? Oh, Philippa's iPhone got 7. Right. Now, I'm going to ask you a very difficult question, Sonny.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Rob, Glyn, Philippa's iPhone, and Nick. Who deserves it the most?
Oh no, that's not. That is absolutely, that's rubbish. I'm not going to. All of them.
No. Nail your colours to the mast, Sonny.
No, because there'll be mutiny amongst your ranks. No, I'm not going.
Well, I'm going to make an executive decision. If you're going to wimp out,
I am.
I'm going to give it to Philippa's iPhone.
Oh,
Right, because Glyn Full of Love is well known in these parts, as is Nick Roworth and as is Rob. And we like to encourage new faces onto our Dumteedum Zoom. So Philippa's iPhone, we crown you as the winner of the Dumteedum quiz.
oh, very good.
Do you have an acceptance speech you'd like to give?
No, but thank you very, very much. It's been a lovely, lovely evening. Thank you.
And fitting, because Sonny, it's been lovely spending another evening in your company as well.
And
Thank you for joining us.
Not at all. And take care, everybody. It's been a lovely evening. Thank you so much. Okay.
Take care, everybody. Don't forget, go onto the YouTubes, subscribe to the channel, listen to Sonny's podcast. What's the podcast called again, Sonny?
One stiletto in the grave. One stiletto in the grave. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you will enjoy it. Yeah. Tune in. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and also thank you to the people who are watching us live on YouTube. And if you don't put the answers in the chat, that's no fun. Even though we're all correct. Whatever. All right. Take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. Tatty bye. Don't forget to listen to the podcast. And if you haven't done so already, go on to SpeakPipe. Tell us what you think about the fantastic week of drama that we've had.